I'm Julie Ignarski. We're out here working, putting mulch. We've made a lot of great improvements to the course. It's a great place for family. We've been members since 1986. Our children have all golfed here, worked here. Can't ask for a better family of friends that we've met here at the golf course. And the volunteers working around not cutting down trees, spreading mulch, planting all these beautiful bushes and shrubbery. And we're having our 100-year anniversary this year, 1922.
I'm Audrey Poggle, and I've been a member of this club since 1951. And I didn't like golf. I only became a member because my husband had been a caddy when he was a young boy, and he got me going with it. And I thought, well, if you can't win, then you can't. And then you better join them. And so I came out here, and I was just terrible. And finally, I thought, well, if I'm going to play this game, I got to do it right. And a friend, Hedwig Lang, who was a member, took me to West Bend, and I took some golf lessons. And then he changed my grip, and then I started all over again, hitting the ball 3 feet, and hitting it again until I finally got to hit the ball right. And that was when I really began to like the game.
Brian Lee, I've been a member since 1989. It's a great place. Seen a lot of things go on over the years, and hopefully the new additions that we're doing in the clubhouse and around the outside is going to be a beautiful thing for the future.
And what do you think about the 100-year anniversary?
Looking forward to a big bash. I'm not sure if it's a tuxedo or a pink suit. So hope you all come out.
So you want to hear one of my favorite stories out here. And one time I was golfing at number 17, and excuse me, I walked up on the green and putted, and I came back and I couldn't find my clubs. And what had happened, they rolled into the creek. So clubs went in the creek, my cell phone went into the creek, and that's one of my favorite stories. So, it's great to be here. Thank you. It's just amazing. I can't get my grass to grow at home, and it's perfect out here. So I don't know what the secret is, but I don't have it.
One of the favorite men and women's things at this club many, many years ago, which lasted for a long time, were the mixed team events. And we used to have several during the year. Yeah. Well, no, these are mixed team events. There were mixed men and women on the same team, four on the same team. And we actually had betting. There were betting boards, and people bet on the teams and so forth. And these were they were very, very well attended events. And I remember playing in several of those.
Yes, on 4th of July, and we always, the night before Memorial Day and Labor Day. And the big event was when the men's club tournament would be on Labor Day, and they would play the 36 holes, and then afterwards they'd have a big party out here that night because people would be out here watching, and would bring the people out to watch the matches. The matches were so much fun. Now you don't even know when they're played.
A gentleman who every Saturday morning he would have Hattie Strahota come out here and make a breakfast for a group of him and his golfers. And this was on a Saturday morning, and they went down number 1 fairway, and his cart kind of walked off the course, and he actually passed away on number one fairway.
Oh.
One year, and I don't remember which year it was. I wasn't much of a golfer, but I did win that year. The Golden Girls.
When I think back, it all started with junior golf and some of the dear friends I made there, playing with people like Randy DeMuth and Bob Cattell and the Chandler boys who lived on the 10th hole right next to us. The Selnos, Dave and Mark, and Joe Rhodes Jr. and people like the Cressons, whose father was a member and mother was a member out here. Just wonderful memories. Taking lessons from Gene Frank, I think, is definitely something that sticks out of my mind. Every time I go into a bunker, I think of how Gene Frank taught me how to hit out of a bunker. So some of those things are still with me to this day. Thank you, Gino.
One of the memorable golfers out here, which Audrey mentioned before, was Hedwig Lang. She was a diehard golfer, and I played many, many rounds of golf with her. If I didn't know who to golf with, I'd call Hedwig, and we'd be out there and we'd be playing. And my husband used to play with Herb Lang and Mike Benson and himself, and I don't know who the fourth was, but they were the foursome for golf, and I would play with Hedwig, but she was a great golfer. Really women champions and so forth. There was Millie Kale and her sister Josephine Kale, Bernie Hefty, Winnie Toredo. And this was in the 30s, and these gals played and they would shoot 38s and so forth. They were probably actually better golfers than I was when I was winning championships. But I played with Millie a few times, and she played in the 30s. And of course we just had 9 holes. And remember that there weren't many ladies' tees either. I can remember number 6 fairway had a huge tree, whether it was an oak, I don't remember what kind of a tree it was. The men could shoot over it, but we ladies couldn't do it. We couldn't hit the high balls that they hit, so we had to shoot under it. And I remember the first time coming out where they had cut the tree down, and here was this big stump. And what did I do? I hit the stump and I went in the creek.
So another one of my fond memories is getting to play golf with my father and his friends. It wasn't just all about junior golf, but playing with some of the seniors. And some of the names that come to mind are just legendary as it pertains to Watertown, and guys like Earl Moss and Jim Wade and Roger Simden, John Weaver, the list goes on and on. Another fond experience was getting to play golf with my father and his friends. These are memories that I'll never forget. Experiences that were just wonderful. And some of these people he vacationed with, guys like Earl Moss, John Weaver, Jim Wade, Freddie Poggle, Dave Fisher, Roger Simden, and I'm sure I'm leaving out a whole bunch, but it was wonderful playing golf with them. And then not only that, but they taught me how to play cribbage and how to settle a golf tab at the bar through cribbage. And once in a while it even involved a little dice shaking.
I keep talking about myself all the time and the things that I did, but my husband was real active. He was house chairman of the club for a couple years, and on the board with Floyd Schaefer, all the old timers, and at that time the house chairman would help with the kitchen, and they didn't serve lunch out here, but his mother would make homemade potato salad, and he'd bring it out on Tuesday noons and stop at Fence and get a hamburger, and then we'd have the cook come out. That we always had Addie, and she'd cook hamburgers, and so the men started having lunches out here. And then he got the old dishwasher from Northwestern College out here. It's somebody look. And out here so that we'd have a dishwasher. But he did a lot of things out here too. So I shouldn't just talk about myself.
Well, so here we are, Watertown Country Club, 2022. Sue and I came here in 1969, so that's 53 years. That's 2/3 of our life. And it's a little over 50% of the Watertown Country Club history. So now I'm going to shut up.
That's very good. We haven't been members for quite as long. I think maybe 30 years, but our family's been in membership here for probably closer to 75 years. And it's a beautiful place to come and play golf. And we just love being here. We're happy that the course is flourishing.
And we're happy that we have friends that we made 50 some years ago, and newer friends 30 years ago, and still new friends every time we turn around. So we love this as a place to gather with friends or to meet new people.
She said be brief.
Okay, I'm brief.
So happy 100th anniversary, Watertown
Yes.
Country Club.
Here, here.
event. It was in the 80s. Sometimes we can't remember the exact year. And the weathermen did not classify it as a tornado, but it sure seemed like it. And luckily, it was on a Tuesday and a Wednesday, the busiest day of the week again. And luckily, all the golfers were in. We used to tell the story.
Well, the golfers were in, and we were out sitting around, and all of a sudden we looked out, and the trees were blowing, and they were bending over, and the windows in the clubhouse were shaking. You know, they were just bowing and shaking like this. And I says, I think we're having a tornado here in a few minutes. We got to get the people out of this area. Got to get them where it's a low area. So we headed them mostly into the locker room, on the floor in the locker room. Get on your knees and lay down in the locker room, and they did that, and some of them did, and some of them that were playing cards didn't want to quit. They didn't want to quit playing poker and gin or whatever. But yeah, they didn't want to quit. But I kind of insisted, you got to get the heck out of here. This thing is coming, and it's going to be bad, because we could see it coming over the 10th fairway and coming towards the golf course. And sure enough, here it comes, and we got everybody pretty much in control and out of the way. And it hit the clubhouse and the trees. The trees were blowing down, and it was pretty scary at the time. I remember very well that particular day, because the clubhouse, I'm sure some of the people were wishing it would have blown it down, the clubhouse, but because it was kind of even old, that it was old then. But it was quite a day to remember as far as weather goes for Watertown Country Club.
And Gloria Whitty was the clubhouse manager then, and she just frustrated her no end. She was trying to get those card players to quit, and they just wouldn't quit. So finally, and she was afraid the glass would break, and they get.
It was shaking. It was shaking, and
so she finally just closed the drapes because she couldn't get them to quit. Luckily, if it was a tornado, it didn't do any damage to the clubhouse.
It was bad.
Yeah. And then the next day, I could not believe how many trees were down.
You should have seen it was a mess.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
And then the chainsaws that came out. I had no idea that many people in Watertown had chainsaws. That was an education for me. That's one implement Gina's never owned. We have many golf clubs, but we didn't have any chainsaws.
A couple of golf clubs.
So we were.
Hi there, I'm Tom Leith. My association with Watertown Country Club starts in 1957, when me and my friend Tommy Havlicek were caddies out here. And our jobs were to come out in the morning and fill the coolers and clean the two bathrooms. We didn't get paid directly for that. And Gary Fent, who was the bartender, one of the Fent brothers from Fent Meat Market, he would put a half a dozen hot dogs in the boiler, and we had to eat 3 hot dogs every day. That's my stomach right there. The other perk we got was we could go look for balls, and we would sell the balls. That's how we made our money, and an occasional caddy job. I believe I joined the club here in 1968 or 1969, so I've been a member here for over 50 years. And for about the last 20 years, I've been in charge of our group that started at 8, then it went to 12, 16. This year we have 20 golfers, and we play every Tuesday, and most of them play every Thursday and Saturday. So we're definitely getting our money's worth, and we just love to play here.
Just a quick story. They used to have an event term with the PGA called the Pro Club Champion Best Ball. And Jim Wade and I would play in that, I think, about 3 times. And it was at Bristol Oaks one year, and in Madison at Cherokee and Madison one year. And anyway, we used to get paired up with Dennis Tiziani and his club champion. And every year we beat them and won. Jim Wade and I would win. We won like 2 in a row. And the third time we had him, we beat him. When we got there, Dennis Tiziani, I don't know, you guys probably don't know who he is, but he owned Cherokee for a lot of years. Maybe he still does, I don't know. But he was a good friend of mine. Good player. And he says, "You still got that big guy as your champ?" And I said, "Hell yes, I do. We're going to kick your butt again this year. And by golly, if we didn't. That was one of the biggest thrills of my life for Jim Wade and I to go there and win that tournament, beat Dennis in his club champion 3 years in a row. That was really a great time. Thanks.
Hi, Rick Lieblang, a member of Watertown Country Club. I've been on the board for 15 plus years. And Leslie is here interviewing me, and I want to talk a little bit about the LLC that we did, I think it was 18 years ago, maybe 15. We had 120, 125 members then, and the club was in financial problems. To the point that Dick Schumann, who has passed away now, and myself, went down to the bank that we owed $1.4 million to, and we couldn't make payments. As a matter of fact, Dick had given the bank the keys for Watertown Country Club because it was over. The bank called us up the next day and said, can we negotiate something to keep you open? Because they didn't want the club either. 33 members of our club started an LLC to keep our club open. We all donated money, all different amounts, and it has worked. After the 18 years, we have kept Watertown Country Club floating. And I'm very proud of that with the 33 people that put money in. With that said, it's been, I can't say enough about the 33 people that put money in to keep it going. Some people over the years have lost a little interest and didn't know the story behind that. But I think it's very important and very pleasing that people know what had happened. Shortly after that, there was another group that wanted to redo and put cart paths in, sand traps in. Vern Lindquist and myself had gone through every member at Watertown Country Club and asked for money. It got to the point when we walk up to the bar, people would leave because they didn't want to keep asking for money. But we got it done with help from everybody at this club. And I think it's exceptional that we did that.
Well, my story about Gene is a number of years ago, we played in a couples event on a Sunday afternoon, and it was a scramble, and the teams were mixed. You didn't play necessarily with your husband or wife.
Some of those tournaments they were mixed scrambles.
Yes, and that was fun, and I was the least experienced player on the team, so I would always have to putt first so that everybody else could watch my putt, and hopefully then we'd be able to do it. But I'll tell you what, I was pretty successful because Gene would stand behind me and help me line up my club so that I could get the putt in the hole. And I almost always did, because you lined me up.
You had a nice stroke, just to get the stroke on line, and the ball went in the hole.
And I don't think we won, but we did well.
We did well, yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Here's the story with the doctor, Dr. Roman. We call him the doctor. I have to have carpal tunnel surgery. So I'm in the surgical setting. They freeze it now. They don't put you to sleep for this one. And when you're in a surgical setting at the hospital, bright lights and people with gowns are moving all over the place. And I'm strapped on a table like they're going to execute me. So they freeze my hand and the doctor is cutting. I can feel it pulling as he's cutting my hand wide open. And I'm a little nervous about this. So anyway, back up a little bit. We play golf for 20, 20, and 20. So it's $60 on the line when we play golf. And we're always back and forth. So as I'm laying there with my hand splayed open, the doctor says to me, what do you think? Should we play for 100, 100, and 100 this year? As he's cutting my hand open.
Okay. Chris and I play together quite often. We're in the Wednesday morning group. And none of us are good golfers, but we like getting together and we like playing golf as long as we don't have to count. So we've been playing scrambles and we check for wildlife, and there was an eagle on the course. That's what we like about playing golf. We're outside, we're in this beautiful setting. That eagle, he sat in that tree for the longest time. We watched him. Somebody did you take the picture of him? Mm-hmm. She took a picture of him. That's why we like golf. And Gene sometimes wishes he could play like that, but he, you know, these really competitive people, they probably wouldn't enjoy our group. We have different priorities.
And of course, lunch afterwards.
Yes, that's a must.
Well, it got down to where we were kind of getting ready. We were preparing the fairways, the seating and everything. And we got to talking about those oak trees. And that one that was right in the middle of the fairway was ridiculous because it was out there about 190 yards maybe, and it was right in the absolutely in the middle of the fairway. And if you tried to go around to the left, the creek at that time ran right alongside the edge of the fairway. We rerouted the creek finally.
Really? Okay, yeah.
To where it is, way out.
Didn't know you
there.
could do that.
The creek
You couldn't do it
at
now,
that time
I'm
went
sure.
right
Yeah.
down alongside and the other side, then you were hitting out in the driving range to get around it. So we said, well, that tree has to go. Clark Leith and I, and that was the other member that I couldn't think of. But Clark Leith and I were in favor of cutting the tree down. And it was a big oak, beautiful, big oak, that big around.
Yeah.
And we said, it's just gotta go. What the heck, we can't play around. We can't play around it. We can't get over it. So we took a vote at our meeting of the 5 guys were on the committee. Well, Ed Dobratz was in favor. Oh, he didn't never cut down. He didn't want to cut down a tree. Oh, you can't cut down that tree. That's a beautiful tree. And he talked Harold Dakin and Gene Chase into cutting the tree down. So we take a vote on it. It was always 3-2. Those 3 guys that voted against Leith and I. And so finally it got down to where it really had to come down, or else we were going to be planting grass and everything around it. And Leith found out that Ed was heading up north. And he was going to spend a weekend up fishing. He hadn't been anywhere all summer, and he was going up there. So that was just right for Clark. He was a devious guy anyway, a great guy. No, I tell you, I value his friendship. But anyway, Ed wasn't even out of town, I don't think, and Leith was on the phone with me, and I was chairman of the committee. And he says, Earl, he says, I want to call a meeting. I want you to call a meeting for Saturday morning. And this was Friday. And I said, what's this, Clark? Oh, no. That's awful short time. He said, I want to take up getting that tree out of there. And I could see right then what was going to go on. And I don't know. Well, he says, I'm requesting officially that you call a meeting. So I said, well, okay. So I called the other guys, and we had a meeting on Saturday morning. And there were only 4 of us there then. Well, by then he had talked to his old friend, and he was a longtime friend, acquaintance of Harold Dakin. And he had talked Dakin, and that tree was in the way, then I had to go, and he'd prepared him. So we took a vote then. It was 3 in favor, cutting it down, and 1 against it.
Passed, almost unanimous, yeah.
So he says, okay, who's going to get George Wiesenberg, who was our Greens chairman, or Greens superintendent? He says, who's going to get George out there? I want him out there this afternoon or else tomorrow morning.
Before Ed gets back.
We got to get that tree down.
Oh, no.
And he said, well, Clark, I appoint you a committee of 1 to arrange that.
Clark.
And Clark says, I'll take care of it. And so next morning he had George Wiesenberg out there. We went through that old oak tree and down she came.
Before Ed got back.
And it was laying there on Sunday. Well, they didn't, we didn't have anybody working, so just a big tree was all flat and flown. And Ed got back on Monday morning or Sunday afternoon, I don't remember which. And the first thing he did when he came into town was to drive by the golf course. And as he came across Silver Creek Road there, and he looked out, and Jan Obrat says, "I never heard it." He said, "I didn't know knew any names like that." He says, "Oh," he said, "gee, he was terrible." The words he used were terrible. And he was irate. Anyway, every Monday morning, or every morning, I was still working. I was full time. And I'd always go down to the post office first thing in the morning, about 8 o'clock, and pick up the mail and our box at the post office. And I'd usually meet Ed down there, and man, we'd talk about that. And sure enough, Ed was there Monday morning, and I walked in, and I said, "Morning, Ed." He went by me.
He was mad.
Absolutely didn't even recognize me. And he wouldn't say a word. He just walked out of there like I wasn't there.
How long did that last?
Oh, about a couple of days.
And then it was over.
50 years in the PGA.
As a Class A member.
As a Class A member.
Major.
And it says on here, half-century member, thank you for the years of hard work and dedication to the game of golf. And that was given to me by my godson, who is now the president of the PGA section in Wisconsin. Which I'm very proud of him too.
Oh, this is the stock that when we joined this club, my husband got this stock, 1951. I was 24 years old, and we paid $25 for this, and it was $50 for the dues, and I could play on his membership. And that's the way it was all the time. You played on your husband's membership. Cut some of that stuff up.
Another one of my fondest memories is getting to actually not only work in the events out here, but actually play in some events. As a junior, I was able to play in the club tournament. I actually won one as a junior. As an adult, I was able to play in the championship flight tournament and won several tournaments as an adult. Other events that stand out here that I got to play in, most memorable, was winning the Oldsmobile Scramble with my father, Dallas Hinsey, partner Earl Moss, and Fred Poggle. We would advance on to Western Lakes and come up just short with the help of our local club pro, Bob Duncan. But it was a heck of a time and a memory I'll never forget. The second time we were able to win the old Scramble, I was teamed up with Tom Brown, Terry Grinwald, and Steve Martin, affectionately known as Tavor. There we went on with Sean Finley from this club to Horicon, and we were just a stroke or two shy of making it to the national finals out of the sectional there. What wonderful memories those brought me, and I'll never forget those.
Hi, this is Scott Meyer. I am the boys and girls golf coaches for Watertown High School, and we want to send our appreciation to Watertown Country Club for the wonderful job that they do with our golf teams and allowing us to use the facilities. So thank you from all of us with the Watertown golf teams.
One of my fonder memories, maybe the fondest, is winning the U.S. Amateur Qualifier out here in front of family and friends. It allowed me to go on and play at East Lake in Georgia, where they play the PGA Tour Championship every year, and it was a great experience with my father and I. He got to caddy for me there at the age of 76 years old, which is amazing to me. I don't know how he was able to do that for 36 holes. And to cap it all off, I got married here at Watertown Country Club, and I couldn't think of a better place to do that. My beautiful wife, Sarah. Anybody thinking about having a wedding should really consider getting married at Watertown Country Club. I'm sitting right now on the spot that we got married.
Dennis Mudler. I was president of the country club for 3 years back in the early 2000s and a little later than that. And I have two things that I want to relate to membership in the history of the club. First of all, I remember Gloria and Earl Whitty, who were the custodians of this place, who were absolutely wonderful, great people, great chefs. They were here when our boom time. Well, I was asked by former president at that time, or the president at that time, Jim Becker, to do a study. What if they would retire and we would have a GM leadership versus Gloria and Earl running the club? They were wonderful. Well, I did this, I had a committee, we gave a report, and I said, if and when Gloria and Earl are ready to retire, this is what a GM leadership at the club might look like, if and when they retire. Well, within about a week, my golf cart was vandalized. I had 4 flat tires. My golf cart was turned over. People took that report entirely wrong because I said if and when they retire. So that's one of the exciting things. Shortly thereafter, they were gone. They left on their own, but they were gone. Now, the club really misses them. They were here at our zenith of the popularity. They were here and they were really good. Secondly, I was president when the club ran out of money. Back in 2000, whenever that was, I was the president. We had $1.35 million of debt, and we had no money to pay it. We could hardly make payroll. We were behind on all of our vendors. So a committee of us, myself, Rick Liebling, and a few others, decided we need to try to raise this money to pay off this debt. The bank said, hold, don't make any payments, make interest payments. Oh, we couldn't even do that. We're lucky we made payroll. So a committee of us got together and did this. We raised $850,000. The bank took that to pay off the debt. Now we have the LLC. And somehow the club survived that. The club's growing stronger every day. I bless the leadership that this club has had, and thank goodness we're still here yet.
Hi everybody. So you're probably wondering why the club president is not at the gala tonight. I am hosting a family reunion at my house in Economowoc. I am very sorry that I can't be there tonight. And also I'm having my 30th wedding anniversary this October, so in order for me to survive and live to be old enough to see my 30th wedding anniversary, I have to be home helping my wife with the reunion. That being said, as far as being the current club president, I absolutely adore Watertown Country Club. It is a privilege to serve on the board. I love the fact that every single person currently serving on the board has one objective: to leave the club in better shape when our terms expire and to improve the daily existence of Watertown Country Club. Whether it's the course, the food and beverage, the bar service, the beer cart on the course, making new friends and introductions, and just having a fun time. I think that we are doing incredibly well and that our future is incredibly upbeat. I'm looking forward to what is yet to come in year 101 and year 102, and I look forward to doing that with all of you. I've got a year and a half to go on the board. I have no idea if I'll renew for a second term, but it's my distinct pleasure to serve as your club president. I trust that Mark Roman will do a great job tonight in my place as MC and helping officiate tonight's festivities, but I hope you all have a great time and that you are enjoying Watertown Country Club as much as me and my family do. So with that, I say cheers and enjoy the gala and hope to see you all very soon. Thank you.
I just want to wish everybody the best. I hope Watertown Country Club goes on forever.
Happy 100th anniversary.
Happy 100th anniversary!
Mark your calendars and join us August 20th, Watertown Country Club 100th anniversary.
Happy 100th anniversary!